A floating embarcadero on the Sacramento River. It is one idea being floated as a way to bring people to the Sacramento Riverfront in a way they never have before. For the first time, the Sacramento has actually hired a person with the single focus of developing its urban riverfront, and a one-time Walt Disney Imagineer got the job.
Steve Large shows us the plan to make magic along the Sacramento Riverfront in a story you'll see only on CBS 13.
This is a stretch of the Sacramento River that is so close to downtown, and yet look around. No one comes here to see it. One big reason? Interstate 5. Built back in the 1960s, it acts as a virtual blockade to the water. Now Sacramento is imagining new ways to reclaim its riverfront. Like a bend in this powerful river, Sacramento is seeking to change the story of its riverfront by starting a new chapter.
It's really all about storytelling. You take an idea and you make it tangible, visceral, emotional.
And Sacramento has hired this man, Richard Rich, a former Walt Disney Imagineer, to help.
How did I start at Disney?
Rich served as a Disney Imagineer in Orlando and Los Angeles, becoming an expert at turning imagination into reality, bringing people to a place for a story and what he calls an emotional response. What's the formula to building an emotional response?
That's an art, really. And the key to someone like me is to finding the people who are artists.
I asked Rich what the future looks like from his Imagineering eyes. What do you see? Is it a blank canvas?
No, ironically, the view that we're getting right now is the view that really most people don't see of this river, and that is the river itself.
Rich says the Sacramento River presents a challenge different from other riverfront cities like Portland. They've embraced the Willamette River, creating green space right at the water's edge.
That's something we can't do here because our water's edge comes up and down. So the question is, how can we get people up and down appropriately with the water?
It sounds like you might have an answer. You can watch Rich's imagination at work.
There's a barge or two in Old Sac where people can get to the water. But what if that was an entire embarcadero at that level?
A Sacramento floating embarcadero barge.
It's a great idea, and I'm excited to work with Richard.
Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg is promoting a new approach to the river.
I think it requires money, but it also requires creativity, and it requires partnership between the public sector and the private sector.
Rich's riverfront map looks like this, focusing on the 3.5-mile stretch of river between Discovery Park and Miller Park, where the city wants to develop. He's created 9 zones, and he's mapped out where 3 new bridges are planned to span the river between Sacramento and West Sacramento, where Mayor Christopher Cabaldon is also prioritizing development.
We have an opportunity to create something that's really iconic and meaningful and a part of the destination for the waterfront, anchoring both sides of the river, but also different parts of the waterfront on both sides.
Together, the two cities are working on a plan for the top of the I Street Bridge to create an art walk inspired by New York City's High Line.
To take your time and enjoy the river and to be part of the waterfront experience really can be a destination. We've seen this in city after city after city where bridges can be the anchor of tourism and visitors, but also places where local residents just come and hang out.
Plans are not new along the riverfront. Stepping inside the Department of Transportation's Library and History Center is like unlocking a time capsule of what could have been. The answer to the Sacramento Riverfront's future may lie here in the past. In the 1960s, when Sacramento planners tore apart downtown to build Interstate 5, promises included plans for a fisherman's wharf, an esplanade, and riverfront housing. 5 decades later, of those, only I-5 now stands, and it's blamed for decades of failed efforts to bring people back to the river, leading Mayor Steinberg to call riverfront development a conundrum. It's nearly impossible.
Funding is going to be the issue on all of these ideas.
Mayor Steinberg has suggested redirecting some of the $230 million planned for convention center expansion to riverfront development and relying on public-private partnerships.
Are you given the power to make these things happen?
No.
Seeking a new approach to create a new Sacramento riverfront, led by the insight of this one-time Disney-taught Imagineer.
Imagineering always starts, we call it blue sky, starts with the idea, and then it's a question of how do you get there? And there might be 1,000 steps to get there.
Richard Rich says he'd like the city to host 100 events a year along the river, giving people a reason to return to the water again and again.
It's a fascinating concept.
We will see.
To see all of the drone footage that we shot for this story, and of course to learn more about the history of the Sacramento waterfront, you can go to CBS 13's Facebook page.